My mom abandoned me at a diner when I was 16 and said, "Here's $20. You'll figure it out." She drove off with her new boyfriend, leaving me alone. I couldn't cry, just sat there watching her car disappear. 14 years later, they walked onto my ranch demanding half of everything I built. When I refused, she sneered, "I was right to leave you in the street. You only ever belonged there." Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Sup, Reddit. Been sitting on this story for a while now. Never really felt like putting it all out there. But lately it's been weighing on me, and I figured writing it down might help me process some of this shit. So here goes. Growing up, it was just me, 33 male now, and my mom. Dad wasn't in the picture. Dude split before I even took my first breath. Not even a birthday card, not a child support check, nothing. Just gone like he never existed. Classic deadbeat move. Mom tried her best, at least in the beginning. I'll give her that much. She was always hustling, working double shifts at whatever job she could get. Waitressing at the truck stop on the highway, cleaning motel rooms, stocking shelves at the grocery store. Sometimes all three in the same week. I remember her coming home at like 2 a.m. sometimes, shoes in hand so she wouldn't wake me up. Little kid me would pretend to be asleep, but I'd peek through half-closed eyes and watch her count out bills on the kitchen table, her face all tight with worry. Our apartment was this tiny one-bedroom place above the laundromat. The whole place would vibrate when the industrial washers were running downstairs. I slept on a pull-out couch in the living room. Mom had the bedroom. The ceiling leaked when it rained, and in winter it was so drafty we could see our breath in the morning. But Mom would make these blanket forts with me, and we'd huddle inside with a space heater, pretending we were explorers in the Arctic. For a long time, I thought it was just us against the world. Like we didn't have much, but we had each other. That whole thing. Mom used to call us Team Stone. That's our last name. She'd pick me up from school and be like, "What's up, Team Stone?" And I'd give her a high five. Stupid little thing, but it meant something. Then, being a single mom, she started with the pills. It wasn't like some dramatic movie moment where suddenly everything changed overnight. It was slow, barely noticeable at first. She hurt her back lifting a box at her warehouse job. Doctor prescribed pain meds. No big deal, right? But those prescriptions kept getting refilled. And when they finally stopped, she'd already found other ways to get them. Her personality started changing. She'd be super energetic and happy one day, then completely zonked out the next. Started missing shifts at work, calling in sick, eventually got fired from the warehouse. Then, it was harder stuff. I was maybe 12 when I found a little baggie of white powder in her purse when I was looking for lunch money. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it wasn't good. Our apartment started to change too. Stuff would just disappear. The TV was the first big thing. Came home from school one day, and it was gone. Mom said it broke, and she took it to get fixed. It never came back. Then it was her jewelry, the microwave, eventually even stupid stuff like the coffee maker, and my video games. The electricity would get cut off for days at a time. I'd come home from school and flip the light switch, and nothing would happen. So I'd just sit in the dark waiting for Mom to come home. Dinner some nights was whatever I could make before the power went out. I got pretty good at making cold sandwiches. Became an expert at figuring out exactly how many minutes it took to heat up different foods in the microwave, so I could time it before the power went off again. By the time I hit 14, things were really bad. Mom was barely functioning. She'd sleep all day, be gone all night. When she was home, she'd either be passed out or so strung out she couldn't even hold a conversation. I'd try to talk to her, and she'd look at me like she had no idea who I was. I wasn't her kid anymore. I was just another mouth to feed, another problem she couldn't solve. I was this constant reminder of the life she could have had, but didn't. When she looked at me, I could tell she was seeing someone else. Someone who was holding her back. Then came Toby. This guy was a real piece of work. Dude had to be like 15 years older than Mom, with this greasy ponytail and these shitty faded tattoos that looked like they were done in someone's basement with a sewing needle. Always wore these weird tank tops even though he had these skinny little arms. Drove a rusty pickup with a Confederate flag sticker even though we lived in freaking Wyoming. Mom met him at some dive and suddenly he was always at our place, taking up space, eating our food, watching our TV when the power was on. And he didn't like me. Not one bit. "That kid of yours is eating us out of house and home," he'd say to Mom, like I wasn't sitting right there at the table. "Growing boy like that? Gonna cost you a fortune. You know how much food a teenage boy puts away?" Mom would just laugh, like he was being funny or something, but I could see it in her eyes. She was starting to think he was right, like I was this burden she'd been carrying, and maybe it was time to set it down. I tried to make myself useful, started picking up odd jobs around the neighborhood, mowing lawns, shoveling snow, whatever I could find. Tried to buy my own food so Mom wouldn't have to, but it wasn't enough. Nothing was ever going to be enough. When I turned 16, Mom drove me to this place called Rosie's Diner on the edge of town. It was this crappy little spot where truckers would stop, but they had decent pie. Never really eaten there before, so I was kind of excited. Thought maybe she was turning things around, you know? Like maybe this was some kind of birthday thing. Even though my birthday was still 2 months away, she bought me a slice of apple pie and sat across from me in the booth. Didn't order anything for herself, just watched me eat for a minute. Jamie, she said, not looking me in the eye, I love you, but I can't do this anymore. Toby thinks we deserve a fresh start. I remember my fork was halfway to my mouth. I just froze there, like someone hit pause on a movie. The pie was suddenly tasteless in my mouth. What are you talking about? I asked, even though I knew. Deep down, I already knew. She was twisting her hands together, still not looking at me. Toby's got a cousin in Arizona. Says he can get us set up there. Good jobs. Fresh start. Us? I said. You mean you, me, and Toby? She finally looked at me then, and I could see it in her eyes. There was no me in her plan. You're smart, Jamie. Smarter than I ever was. You'll figure it out. You always do. She slid a $20 bill across the table, her hand shaking a little. That's all I got right now. But once we get set up in Arizona, I'll send for you. I promise. We both knew that was bullshit. Even then, strung out and barely functional, she couldn't quite bring herself to say the truth. She was abandoning me, leaving me behind like unwanted luggage. She got up, gave me this awkward pat on the shoulder, and walked out. Didn't look back. Not even once. That 20 didn't even cover the bill for the pie and the coffee she ordered. I just sat there for hours. The waitress, this older lady with dyed red hair, kept filling up my coffee cup, probably feeling sorry for me. I was trying so hard not to cry, taking tiny sips of coffee I didn't even want, watching the door like maybe she'd come back and say it was all a joke. She didn't. Around midnight, a police officer showed up. He sat in the booth across from me. Son, he said, want to tell me what's going on? I didn't know what to say. How do you tell someone your own mother just dumped you at a diner? So I just stared at my empty plate, feeling this weird anger burning in my chest. The cop sighed and rubbed his face. Your mom called from the road. Said you're on your own now. The shame hit me hard. She actually called the cops on me. Like I was some problem that needed handling. Some stray dog she couldn't take to the new apartment. She say anything else? I asked, my voice coming out all scratchy. Said you're a smart kid. Said you'd figure it out. He shook his head a little. Look, son, I gotta be straight with you. There's not a lot I can do here. Foster system in this county is packed to the gills. Group homes are full. And finding a placement for someone your age. He trailed off. AKA, nobody wants a teenager. Too old to be cute, too young to be on your own. Stuck in the middle. I got some money, I said, pulling out the 20 Mom left. I can get a room or something. The cop gave me a look that was half pity, half respect. $20 doesn't go as far as it used to, son. In the end, he paid my bill at the diner and drove me to the youth shelter on the other side of town. But they were full. No beds available for at least a week. So I ended up crashing behind Rosie's for a few nights. There was this little loading dock area in the back where delivery trucks would pull up. If I tucked myself under it, nobody could see me from the road. When it rained, I wouldn't get too wet. Mornings, I'd wash up in the bathroom at the gas station down the street. The guy who worked there pretended not to notice me coming in every day looking like hell. I'd splash water on my face, brush my teeth with my fingers since I didn't have a toothbrush, try to make myself look somewhat human. Rosie, the actual Rosie who owned the diner, figured out what was going on pretty quick. She started leaving the back door unlocked, accidentally, so I could slip in when it got really cold. She'd sneak me scraps when the cook wasn't looking, pancakes that got burnt, hamburgers somebody sent back, fries that sat under the heat lamp too long. I was hungry enough that it all tasted amazing. The cop kept checking on me. He'd drive by in his cruiser, roll down the window, ask if I was holding up okay. After about a week, he found me a bunk at the youth shelter. Man, that place was rough. Concrete walls painted this nasty shade of green. Metal bunk beds that squeaked whenever anybody moved. Everything smelled like bleach, but you could still smell the rot underneath, you know? And the other kids? Not exactly the Brady Bunch. Most of them had been through way worse shit than me, and it showed. The staff tried, but they were overworked and underpaid. Best they could do was make sure nobody killed each other. I lasted 2 weeks there. One night I woke up and there was this kid going through my backpack, the one with all my stuff in the world. It wasn't much. Some clothes, a picture of me and mom from when I was little, a Swiss Army knife my science teacher had given me, but it was all I had. I shoved the kid off and he pulled a knife on me. Not a little pocket knife, but a legit hunting knife. I bolted that same night, didn't even grab all my stuff, just ran. After that, I started sleeping wherever I could. Abandoned sheds behind people's houses, empty haylofts at the farms outside of town. This one construction site had a porta potty that nobody was using. Spent a couple nights in there when it was raining. Anywhere nobody would notice a skinny kid curled up in a hoodie trying not to freeze to death. I'd pick up day labor when I could. Construction sites, farms, whatever. Most people didn't ask too many questions if you showed up early and worked hard. It wasn't steady, but it was enough to eat. October hit and the temperature dropped fast. One night, I heard the weather lady on the gas station TV say it might snow. I needed somewhere warmer than my usual spots, so I scoped out this barn that looked empty on the edge of someone's property. Figured I could burrow into some hay and nobody would know till morning. I was halfway through sliding the door open when a voice froze me in place. "You planning on paying rent?" I turned around to see an old rancher standing there, probably in his 60s. Short, but solid as a rock. Had these weathered hands and a face that told you he'd spent his whole life outdoors. His ice blue eyes just stared right through me, like he could read every bad decision I'd ever made. I thought for sure he'd call the cops. Or worse, handle it himself with the shotgun I could see leaning against the barn door. Instead, he just looked at me for a long time, sizing me up. Then he tossed me a shovel. "Sun up to sundown," he said in this voice like gravel. "You work, you stay. No freebies." And that was the best deal I ever took. First few months at Carter's weren't easy. The man was fair, but he worked me harder than anyone ever had. Up before dawn, shoveling shit out of stalls, fixing fences, hauling feed, moving cattle. My hands got so calloused they'd crack and bleed at night. Carter didn't talk much, but he gave me a room above the barn. Just a bed, a dresser, and a space heater. But it was mine. First night there, I just sat on the edge of the bed for an hour, not knowing what to do with myself. Having a door I could close? That was crazy for a homeless child. Winter came, and the work didn't stop. It got harder. Breaking ice on water troughs, trudging through snow to check on cattle, learning to fix equipment with hands so cold I couldn't feel my fingers. One night after busting my ass clearing snow all day, I was at the kitchen table struggling with some algebra homework for my GED when Carter walked in. He just grunted, "Math giving you trouble?" And when I nodded, he sat down and started breaking it down in a way that actually made sense. No bullshit, no talking to me like I was stupid. Turns out the old man had been an engineer with a degree from Colorado State before becoming a rancher, and by the time we finished, I wasn't just solving the problem. I actually understood the concept. That became our routine. Work all day, school at night, Carter teaching me things no classroom ever would. How to track weather patterns, how to judge the health of soil by its smell, how to read the market reports and know when to buy or sell. He wasn't soft. When I screwed up, he let me know. No yelling, no threats, just that cold blue stare and a few choice words that would make me feel about 2 inches tall. But when I did good, he'd give me this little nod, maybe a not bad, and somehow that felt better than a standing ovation. Years passed like that. I got my GED, then Carter pushed me to take some business classes at the community college in the next town over. I'd work the ranch all day, then drive 40 minutes to night classes, coming home to study until I passed out. When I turned 21, Carter took me to his lawyer's office. I thought maybe I was in trouble, but instead, he made me a partner in the ranch. Said I'd earned it. "This place needs someone who cares," he told me on the drive back. "Someone who knows the value of work." Those words meant more to me than anything anyone had ever said to me. The next few years flew by as we transformed the ranch together. It wasn't huge, but damn was it profitable. When the Petersons went bankrupt, we snatched up their land. We upgraded all the equipment, modernized our operations, and started breeding premium stock. Every improvement felt like we were building something that would last forever. Then everything changed. I was 26 when Carter got sick. Cancer, the bad kind. He fought it for almost a year. Tough old bastard that he was. I'd never seen him afraid of anything until those last few months. Not afraid of dying, exactly, but afraid of leaving things unfinished. The night before he died, he called me to his bedroom. He was so thin by then. All the muscle melted away, leaving just skin and bones. But his blue eyes were still sharp. "Jamie," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You remember that day I caught you sneaking into my barn?" "Yes, sir," I said. When morning came, I found him still and peaceful in his bed. Just didn't wake up. Like the tough son of a bitch he was, he'd gone out on his own terms, without fuss or drama. The will was simple and direct, just like him. Everything went to me. The ranch, the land, the cattle, the equipment, everything. I buried him on the hill overlooking the ranch, right where he always said he could see the whole valley. And just like that, I was alone again. But this time with something real. Purpose. A place. Something I'd helped build. After that, I just put my head down and worked. Hired that guy, I'll call him Miguel, who'd done seasonal work for us before, as my first full-time hand. Expanded everything. More cattle, better breeding stock, new equipment. Basically just took everything Carter taught me and ran with it. Fast forward to now. I'm 30-something, and the ranch is doing better than ever. We're one of the most successful operations in the county, with 3 full-time hands including Miguel, who's stuck with me since right after Carter died. Turns out all that shit I went through actually led somewhere good. Life was good. Hard work, but good. I didn't have many friends, no time for that, but I had respect in town. People knew me as a fair boss and a man who paid his debts on time. That was enough. Then one morning, Miguel pulls up to where I'm fixing an irrigation pipe, looking nervous as hell. "Boss, you got visitors at the house." I already knew. Don't ask me how, but I knew. There was Mom, I'll call her Linda now, dressed up like she thought she was auditioning for some reality show, hair all done up, wearing clothes that cost more than she used to make in a month. She'd put on weight, but she looked healthy, clean, sober maybe. Toby was there too, with a gut hanging over his belt that told me he hadn't missed many meals in the last decade and a half. Still had the ponytail, but it was more gray than brown now. And with them was Uncle Mike, Linda's brother, who I'd met maybe twice in my life. Same smug face he always had, like he was always about to tell you how you were doing everything wrong. I got off my truck and just stood there, not saying a word. Linda fake cried, pressing a tissue to her eyes without smudging her makeup. "Jamie, baby, you changed so much, we've missed you. We've been looking everywhere for you. We're family. We just want to be close to you. Make things right." I didn't say anything, just stared at them. Because what the actual hell? Toby stepped forward, hands in his pockets, trying to look friendly. "This is a nice place you got here, kid. Real nice. I could help you out with the ranch. Got some experience with farm equipment." Uncle Mike started walking around, looking at everything like he was taking inventory. "Family legacy. That's what this is about," he said, gesturing around. "Carter would have wanted us all to share in this. We're all family here." I finally spoke. "What do you want?" Linda looked at Toby, then back at me. "Well, honey, we're in a bit of a tight spot. Toby's business didn't work out, and we thought maybe, since you've got all this." She waved her hand around, indicating the ranch. "You want money?" I said. Not a question. "We want to be a family again," Mom said, her voice going up at the end like she was asking a question. I laughed. Couldn't help it. "You abandoned me at a diner when I was 16, slid me a 20 that didn't even cover the bill. And now you want to be family? You know what? I have no time for this BS. Get the hell out. All of you." Linda's face twisted into something ugly then. She sneered and spat. "I was right to leave you in the street. You only ever belonged there." I looked at her. Funny. From where I'm standing looks like I'm the one with the land, and you're the one begging in the dirt. That's when Uncle Mike stepped in, his voice all business. "Actually, Jamie, we're here because there's a legal matter we need to discuss." And that's when they dropped it on me. They were suing me. A partition lawsuit, they called it, claiming that Carter didn't properly include the extra land he bought in later years in his will. Land that, ironically, he'd bought from my mom years ago when she needed money for her habit. I knew the land they were talking about. It was a 100-acre parcel on the east side of the ranch. Carter had bought it from Mom 10 years before he took me in. According to Uncle Mike, Mom had inherited it from her father, my grandfather who died when I was too young to remember him. She'd sold it to Carter when she needed cash, but apparently there was some technicality with the deed. Because of this technicality, they had a shot at forcing me to sell part of my ranch so they could get a payout. As they laid it out, the accusations started flowing. They said I manipulated Carter, that I isolated him from others, that he wasn't in his right mind when he made his will. He was an old man, Uncle Mike said, like he was explaining something simple to a child. Alone out here. Easy for a kid like you to work your way in. Get him to sign things. I'd never hit anyone in my life, but in that moment, I wanted to break his jaw. Instead, I told them again to get off my property. Said if they had legal claims, they could talk to my lawyer. They didn't leave right away. Kept trying to reason with me. Said we could work something out. Said they just wanted what was fair. I went into the house, got my shotgun, the same one Carter used to keep by the barn door, and came back out. Didn't point it at them, just held it at my side. Get off my land, I said. Now. That got their attention. They left, but not before Uncle Mike yelled some threats about what was coming my way. I stood in the driveway watching their dust trail fade, this cold feeling settling in my gut. Not fear exactly, but the kind of dread you get when you know a storm's coming and there's nowhere to hide. I'd built something here, something real and mine, and these people who'd thrown me away like garbage were trying to take it from me. For about an hour after they left, I just sat on the porch steps trying to wrap my head around it all. Part of me wondered if I should just offer them some cash to go away. A smaller, uglier part wanted to load up the shotgun and stand guard over every acre. But Carter had taught me better than that. Problems don't get fixed by ignoring them or shooting at them, he'd say. You face them head on with your brain, not your temper. I called my lawyer that afternoon, explained the situation while trying to keep my voice steady. He listened, making notes, then let out this long sigh that told me everything I needed to know before he even opened his mouth. I'll look into it, he said, but I need to be straight with you. These family land disputes get ugly fast. Could take months to sort out, maybe years. And that's assuming they don't drag their feet with continuances and appeals. What followed was the longest winter of my life. January stretched into February, then March, with nothing but paperwork and waiting. About 6 weeks in, Miguel called me at 5 a.m., voice tense. Boss, you better come see this. I found him standing by the east pasture, pointing at a section of fence cut clean through. 3 of our pregnant heifers were gone, probably wandered onto the highway. I thought it was bad luck until it happened again the next week. Then I found a water trough that had been tampered with, had some kind of chemical dumped in it. Lost 3 of our best breeding cows before we realized what was happening. After the 3rd accident, I set up trail cameras on every corner of the property. Spent money we didn't have on a security system that would text my phone if it detected movement at night. 2 days later, at 2 a.m., my phone buzzed with an alert. The footage showed Toby clear as day, wire cutters in hand, working on another section of fence. I took the footage to the sheriff's department immediately. They gave him a warning, even threatened to arrest him if he came back. But we all knew how these things work in rural areas. You can't watch every acre, every minute. Meanwhile, the town's rumor mill went into overdrive. I'd go to the feed store and conversations would stop when I walked in. People I'd known for years, who'd come to Carter's funeral and shaken my hand, suddenly couldn't look me in the eye. Small towns thrive on gossip, and the story was too good to resist. Whispers followed me everywhere. Maybe Carter wasn't all there near the end. That boy came from nothing. Wouldn't be hard for him to steal a ranch from an old man. Blood is blood. If the old man had family, why'd he leave it all to some kid he took in? People I'd known for years suddenly got quiet when I walked into the feed store. Got cold shoulders at the diner where I'd grab breakfast sometimes. Meanwhile, my lawyer was telling me their case wasn't as crazy as it sounded. There was a chance, a small one, but still a chance, they could win. The extra land Carter bought wasn't explicitly mentioned in the will, just said the ranch and all its operations. And it had originally been family land. My family, technically. I almost sold out. Almost gave up. Called a developer who'd been trying to buy the south section for years. Thought maybe if I sold that part, I could pay them off and they'd leave me alone. But then I was fixing a broken tractor belt that night, knuckles bloody from slipping on the wrench, and something just snapped in me. The same white-hot rage that kept me alive when I was sleeping under loading docks at 16, when my own mother left me with a 20 that didn't even cover the damn bill, came roaring back. I threw that wrench so hard it dented the barn wall. No fucking way these people were taking anything from me. Not 1 acre. Not $1. Not after what they did. You gotta understand something about guys like me. When you've gone hungry enough times, when you've had to wash yourself in gas station bathrooms and fight off other homeless kids with knives, you develop this animal instinct. These soft suburbanites with their lawyers and paperwork had no idea what they were poking. I'd rebuilt engines with my bare hands, dragged 200-pound calves through blizzards, and worked 20-hour days until my boots filled with blood. They thought they could just waltz in and take what I'd earned? The next morning, I told Miguel we were going to war. Not their kind of war with papers and courtrooms, but my kind. The kind where you don't stop until you've won. Me and Miguel started going through every box of Carter's old papers. The man never threw anything away. Feed receipts from the 80s. Manuals for equipment he'd sold decades ago. Tax returns yellowed with age. We spent weeks going through it all, looking for anything that might help. The ranch didn't stop running just because I had legal troubles, so we were doing this at night, after all the day's work was done. Miguel didn't have to help, but he did. Said Carter had given him his first job when nobody else would hire a kid who barely spoke English. Said he owed him. And then, buried at the bottom of a crate labeled Old Feed Bills, Miguel found it. A land contract from 1994. Small print, legal language, but right there in black and white, land to remain within existing ranch operations. No inheritance claims valid outside of current operational ownership. It was a clause Carter had insisted on when he bought that piece of land, the very land my mom and her crew were trying to claim. I took it to my lawyer the next day. He read it, looked up at me, and for the first time since this whole mess started, he smiled. "This is good," he said. "Really good. But we need more. We need someone who can testify to Carter's intentions." The original owner of that land was old man named Peterson, who died back in 2010, but his daughter still lived in the next county over. I drove out there the next day. Sarah Peterson was in her 60s, living in a neat little house with a garden out back. She remembered Carter well. "Oh, Carter Wilson," she said when I mentioned his name. "Finest man I ever knew, besides my daddy. How's he doing?" When I told her he'd passed, she got real quiet. Then she asked why I was there. I explained the situation, told her about the land dispute, about how my estranged family was trying to take what Carter had built. She listened, nodding the whole time. When I finished, she got up without a word and went to a back room. Came back with a box of old papers. "Daddy and Carter were friends for 40 years, she said, digging through the box. "They did business with a handshake most times. But for big things, like land, they wrote it down." She pulled out a folder of old letters. Letters between her father and Carter spanning decades. And buried in there, the smoking gun. She pulled out a yellowed letter from her father to Carter, dated the exact week of the land sale. The message was crystal clear. Peterson was only selling to Carter because he trusted him to keep the land as a working ranch forever. No subdividing, no selling off pieces. Even better, she had Carter's response, a carbon copy her father had kept all these years. In it, Carter not only agreed, but emphasized that his handshake meant more than any contract ever could. Sarah photocopied everything on this old Xerox machine that probably dated back to when the letters were written. She handed me saying, "My daddy would hate this," she said flatly. "He didn't believe in chopping up good land for people who never worked it." A month later, we had our court date. I showed up in my one decent shirt with my lawyer, the contract, and Mrs. Peterson. Linda, Toby, and Uncle Mike looked shocked when they saw her. They hadn't expected me to find actual documentation, much less a witness who could speak to the original intent of the land sale. Their lawyer tried to argue that the contract wasn't valid anymore, that it didn't specifically mention inheritance, that operational ownership was too vague a term. But then Mrs. Peterson got on the stand. She talked about how her father and Carter had been friends since they were young men, how they'd helped each other through drought and blizzard and hard times, how her father had sold the land to Carter specifically because he trusted him to keep it as a working ranch. She pulled out her father's letters, read the one specifically about the land sale, the one that said, clear as day, that he was selling to Carter because he knew it would remain a ranch, not be divided up. Then my lawyer presented Carter's will, which specifically left the ranch and all its operations to me. He argued successfully that the operations included all land used for ranching, including the disputed parcel. Their lawyer tried to counter, saying that the original land sale should have had a right of first refusal clause for the original family, that my mother, as Peterson's original buyer before she sold to Carter, should have been given the opportunity to buy it back before it transferred to me. That's when Mrs. Peterson produced one more letter, this one from Carter to her father, dated just a year before Carter died. "Peterson, I'm updating my will. The boy I took in, Jamie, he's going to get the ranch when I'm gone. He's earned it. Works harder than any man I've ever known. Has a feel for the land like he was born to it. I know you were worried about your old place ending up in the hands of developers or city folk who'd divide it up. You don't need to worry. Jamie will keep it whole. He gives you his word, same as I gave you mine." The judge didn't even let their lawyer finish his response. Case dismissed. Full ownership remains with Mr. Stone as Mr. Carter's legal heir. Defendants are responsible for all legal costs associated with this litigation. Linda cried for real this time, not the fake tears she'd been using. Toby slammed the courtroom door on the way out. Uncle Mike just sat there, looking like someone had stolen his last dollar. I didn't say a word in that courtroom, just grabbed my hat, nodded at the judge, and walked out. My boots echoed on the marble floor like a goddamn victory march. I drove straight back to the ranch, fed the cattle, fixed the fence Toby had cut the week before, kept my hands busy so my mind wouldn't explode. 2 days later, Linda showed up alone. "Jamie," she said, standing by her car like she was scared to come closer. "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything now, but I am. I kept working, driving posts into the hard ground with more force than necessary. Each hit of the sledgehammer felt good. We're leaving town, she continued. Toby and I, Mike too, going back to Arizona. I said nothing, just swung that hammer harder. I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I just wanted you to know, I think about that day at the diner all the time, what I did to you. It was the worst thing I've ever done. I finally looked at her. She'd aged, skin rough from years of whatever shit she'd been putting in her body. For a split second, I saw a flash of the mom I used to have before the drugs, before Toby, before she decided I wasn't worth keeping. You know what the funny thing is? I said, planting the hammer in the dirt. If you'd just come to me and asked for help, like a normal person, I probably would have helped you. She nodded, eyes wet. I know, but you didn't want help. You wanted to take what's mine, what Carter gave me, what I freaking earned with these hands. I held them up, calloused and scarred from years of work. Toby said, I don't give a shit what Toby said. I cut her off. You're my mother. You were supposed to protect me. Instead, you threw me away at a goddamn diner, and then you came back to take the only good thing that ever happened to me. She didn't have an answer for that. You should go, and never come back, I said, grabbing the hammer again. She stood there for another minute, then started walking back to her car. As she opened the door, I called out, Linda. She turned, this pathetic hope in her eyes. Don't ever come back, any of you. This place, everything I've built here, none of it will ever be yours. Not one single acre, not one cow, not one fucking nail, nothing. She nodded, got in her car, and drove away. That was 3 years ago. Never heard from any of them since. The ranch is crushing it now. Added another section last year, hired 2 more hands, got a contract with some organic beef company that pays premium prices. The same hands that once picked through dumpsters for food now sign paychecks for 5 employees. My favorite part of the day is sitting on the porch with a cup of coffee and looking out at it all. The land stretching out under the stars. The cattle. The buildings. And I think about that kid I used to be, sleeping under loading docks, washing my ass in gas station sinks, fighting off other homeless kids with a pocket knife. I think about Carter and what he saw in me that no one else did, not even my own mother. And I know that everything I have, I earned. Every callus, every scar, every acre. Because while they were taking, I was building. And they'll never touch a damn thing I earned. Not now, not ever.